What's going on, guys? And today I'm doing a video about the 5 most unbreakable records, at least in my opinion. So this is fueled by, back in 2011 I'd have to say, Bill Simmons released a book, The Big Book of Basketball. And if you've never read it, it's a really good book to read. If you like the NBA whatsoever, you don't have to be a super fan, you can be a casual fan, you'll probably enjoy it. It's really good. But anyways, one of the best parts about this book was his 10 unbreakable records. I'm not going to go through them here, you can Google them, there's a Reddit thread about it. But basically the whole thing about it is there's 10 records they think will never be broken. One already has been, and it's the 72-10 season by the Bulls. No one thought that would be broken, which happened this year. But anyways, these are the 5 that I think will never be broken. There might be some overlap with the book, but basically these are ones I researched on my own. I found this either online, some people were suggesting, oh, maybe this one would be like the best next unbreakable record. But basically this is all researched by me, so for that effort, I'd greatly appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up and you comment and interact in any way. So anyways, here's the 5 most unbreakable records, in no real particular order, but mainly descending where number 1 I think is the hardest. So first things first, AC Green's consecutive games played record, also known as the Iron Man streak. Now AC Green played in the NBA for quite a while, but the most amazing thing about him was he played over 1,000 games in a row. He actually played just under 1,200, 1,192 career consecutive games played. I believe he only missed 3 total games in his career, and this spanned over 14 years, this streak. So this is absolutely incredible when you think about it, that for 14 years, much longer than most NBA players' careers, or the average NBA career I think is around 7 years, so almost twice as long, he never missed a game. Now, the second place, I forgot who the guy's name was, but he had 906 games, which spanned over 11 seasons, and the current record holder is Tristan Thompson, who's been doing it for 4.5 years, which equates to about 370 games. So the thing the reason why I don't think this will ever happen is, first things first, not many people last past 10 years in the NBA. Then you throw in they have to last pretty much past 15 years in the NBA, which is even more rare. Then throw in the fact that they have to be good enough to be relevant for 15 years, because a lot of players towards the end of their career, at their beginning when they're not that good, they get those coach decision sit-outs, and that will break the streak. And then you throw in there's other minor things such as injuries, that everyone has injuries, it seems to be. AC Green seems to never get hurt. There are other things such as rest, which is more prevalent today than there ever has been, and just everything they put together, and people just sit out games for no reason, everything. I don't think this record will ever be broken. Of course, some super freak in nature will come by maybe in 40 years and he'll be healthy for 15 straight seasons, he'll break this record, but I don't think that's even possible. So moving on to number 2, Hakeem Olajuwon, his blocks record. So he tallied up 3,830 career blocks, and the second on the list is Dikembe Mutombo, I don't know why I said it with an accent, with 3,289, my bad. So this might be a weird record because some people might think this is possible, but something that's incredible about both Dikembe and Hakeem, but Hakeem even more, just how many blocks they got in their career. Just if you think about it, it's something astounding. So for a lot of these where it's career records, I'm going to put up this little thing, over 20 years with no games off. So I mean, this would automatically break AC Green's record. So just imagine someone played for 20 years straight, didn't miss a game at all. They would need to average over 2.34 blocks a game to just beat the record. Now, there's not many people who've ever averaged that in a season. They throw over that in an entire career, and they throw in people who've played for over 20 years. There's just maybe 5 or 6 of them off the top of my head. You have Garnett, you have Robert Parrish, I think Kareem played for 20 years. So those kind of guys have to average 2.34 blocks a game for that long and not take off a single game. That just shows how incredible this is, and I think it's pretty hard for anyone to get to Dikembe's record too. There are some closer ones. I believe the closest current player, even though he just retired, was Tim Duncan, but he was still pretty far off from anyone else. So I think the only way this is possible is you get a guy who has a very long career first off, but just an absolute defensive stalwart. So maybe like, I don't know, current day, maybe Nerlens Noel, but I don't see his career lasting 20 years. And even then, I don't know, he hasn't averaged over 2 blocks per game yet, so this is another unbreakable record. Alright, number 3 is the offensive rebounds record by Moses Malone. Now, this is a really, really weird record because it probably is broken by some guy way back in the 50s or 60s like Will or Bill Russell, back before they recorded offensive rebounds. But I'm going for guys when it has been recorded. Now, my bad. In his career, Moses Malone averaged about 5.1 offensive rebounds a game, which tallied up to 7,382. Now, the second on this list was Artis Gilmore, who played both in the ABA and NBA, and just for all intents and purposes, ABA records carry over to the NBA because they're similar enough competition and a league. And he's second on the list, averaging 3.6 per game with 4,816 total. A gap of almost 2,500. Is that? Yeah, it's just about 2,500. And some might not even think about this, but this is incredible. Once again, going to the 20 years, no games off method, David needs to average 4.5 offensive rebounds a game. Now, there's not many players in the NBA who even average that many total. Then you throw in the fact of how little offensive rebounding is looked at in the modern day, modern era. You throw in the fact that many people who are good at offensive rebounding in terms of bigger players don't last 20 years. I mean, of course, those are usually the people who last the longest, but you don't see many last in 20 years. And all this put together, I don't think this record will ever be broken because even these massive people who lasted forever in the pros never came close to it. When you're looking at Artis Gilmore as the guy who came second, and that guy was like 7'2", 250, and was just an absolute monster. It's still 2,500 rebounds away. I don't think this record will ever be broken. Alright, going to the number 2 or number 4, based on how you're looking at it, and it's John Stockton's records. So I'm kind of cheating a bit. I believe these are mentioned in the book, and I think it's on a per game basis, or I don't remember what it was, but basically his 2 biggest accomplishments, the all-time assists and the all-time steals record. Now I'm going to go together because they're very similar. In his career, he had over 15,000 assists at 15,806 and 3,265 steals. Now, second place is both Jason Kidd, as Jason Kidd was the closest guy to ever come into it, and he fell pretty short. Jason Kidd tallied up 12,091 assists, or he fell about 3,500, well, 3,600 or 3,700 short, and 2,684 steals, so he fell about 600 short on steals as well. Now, this is a huge gap, and so once again, going to my 20 years method, the 20 years no games off, that's 9.63 assists a game, which, I mean, isn't incredible in terms of on a per year, per game basis for a year, but this is for a career. Not many guys average even close to 10 assists for their career. I believe, of course, John Stockton is one of them, as well as Magic Johnson, but, I mean, thinking about that, it's absolutely incredible. Because Stockton played for, I think, 20 or so. He played for about 20 to 21 years, and he barely missed any games. And ever since he came into the league, he was an amazing playmaker and had so many years where he averaged over like 12 or 13 assists per game. At least I believe he did. So that, I feel like, is impossible because of just not only longevity, but also how good of a playmaker you have to be. And I think it's more... It's not easier, but it's not hard to get assists in the modern day NBA, but no one's going to last for 20 years being that kind of playmaker. Now for the steals is pretty incredible too. For the same 20 years off, they need to average just under 2 steals per game at 1.99 steals a game to barely break the record. This too, I feel like, is nearly impossible. Same as I mentioned earlier, you have to come into the league and be an absolute defensive monster for 20 years without taking a game off to break the record. Now, of course, you know, you might have a great defensive player come in and just last for 22 years and not miss many games. You might break this, but I think that's still pretty impossible, especially considering how physical you have to be on the defensive end. Over the years, those little bruises and little injuries will accumulate, and soon enough, you're going to be out of the league. Now, going to the most incredible, and one that most people don't even know about in terms of how incredible it is, Wilt's record of 48.52 minutes per game. Yes, Wilt, for one season, averaged more minutes than there are in an NBA game. Now, some of you might be thinking that this is a typo or something, but you forget of overtime. And basically, that's what happened. I don't remember if it was this season or some other season, but in Bill Simmons' book, he mentioned Wilt. I think he missed like 9 or 8 or 10, some incredibly small number, total minutes. I'm not talking about games. He's talking about total minutes of not playing. So he's playing all 48 minutes plus overtime for 82 games plus for an entire season, and he only missed a couple minutes throughout that is absolutely incredible. So for that record, that will never be broken. Then you throw in the fact that this is 48.52 minutes a game. This is impossible to even think of. This is unfathomable. So I looked up the record list for the most minutes per game, and 1 through 7 is all Wilt Chamberlain. So I mean, you can be number 8, or be number 7, beat one of Wilt's records, but you're not going to be number 1. At least in my opinion, you're not playing more minutes than there is in a game, which means you play every minute, including overtime. Now, number 8 was, I believe, Tiny Archibald, averaged 46.01 minutes a game, which is still pretty far off when you think about how much an NBA minute might cost you physically when it gets that high up. And the closest active player, I believe he was LeBron James in 2006, averaged 42.54 minutes a game, almost an entire half a quarter off from Wilt's record. So that's incredible, and I don't think this will ever be broken because of the things I mentioned earlier. Longevity in the NBA, maybe some rookie will come in and be on a terrible team, and they'll just be super injured, and like imagine like the Grizzlies at the end of the year where they just start pulling in D-League guys. Imagine that, but then they get a guy like LeBron as a rookie come in and he just wants to play every minute, maybe then. But even still, with the modern day NBA, where you're talking about how competitive it is, the flight schedule, how many teams are playing, all the things put up, because way back in the day when Wilt had this record, there weren't 30 teams in the NBA, so there wasn't as much travel. So I don't think this record will ever become close to being broken. I don't think 45 minutes a game, maybe someone will do that, but no one will ever average over 48 minutes per game played ever again. And these are my top 5 most unbreakable records. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this spent a while looking up these numbers and calculating this stuff, so a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. Comment down below if there's any other ones that I missed, and maybe you want me to talk more about records in Bill Simmons' book. You can definitely check that out. It's a really good book. I read that way back when, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I liked it a lot. Comment anything you want to say, subscribe for more content like this, tell me what you want about more content, share this wherever you want to, and of course, have a good day.